Alright everyone, so in today's video we're going to talk about 5 things you probably didn't know about the Boss 302. So let's get into it. Well, this weekend has been just a miserable one, so I spent a lot of time actually inside just kind of hanging out, and one of the things that I've been meaning to do for a while is actually read the book that comes with the Boss 302. So for some people who actually factory ordered their Boss 302s, they got the option to check off this owner's kit, and in the owner's kit was this beautiful book that kind of lays out some of the history of the Boss 302 with the 69 and the 70, and then the 2012, 2013, like mine here. And after reading that book, I was like, man, I gotta share some of these things actually, because I thought they're kind of cool. Some things that I didn't even quite know. And you know, usually I'm a little bit of a Mustang nerd. I try to learn as much about a car as I can before I actually go out and buy it, like maybe some of you are doing right now yourselves. So let's start with number 1. Number 1 was actually the Coyote Engine, the engine that went into the 2011 and up into current Mustangs, started development back in 2008. And from day one, when the engineers started developing this engine, they started talking about a Boss 302. They knew that the engine was finally the right displacement, and they could finally kind of produce something and pay homage back to that classic 69 and 70 Boss 302. So it's interesting to know that they started this all the way back in 2008 is when they started thinking about this car. So that gave them lots of time to develop it and really think it all out. So I thought that was kind of cool. Number 2, and number 2 is one that I've gotten a lot of heat on this channel when I did my 5 things I hate about my Boss 302. I'll link it below, but so many people called me out on the fact that I call this engine a Coyote and I don't call it a Roadrunner. Now, I'm going to address that right now, and there was a reason why I never called it that, and I never actually kind of fully explained it. So when the name Roadrunner came out, it was because the engineers, 1 or 2 of them, thought, hey, what's faster than a Coyote? A Roadrunner. So they thought it'd be a cool way to kind of code name the engine Roadrunner. And actually the car itself was actually going to be called Roadrunner. But they instantly kind of had to shoot that idea down. Main reason? Mopar. I mean, Mopar's been using Roadrunner for years, and they flat out said it. They're like, there's no way we can go to the VPs and you know, the CEO of Ford and say, hey, we want to call the engine the Roadrunner. No, it's not going to happen. So the car is actually codenamed 747. So why would you say, why 747? I mean, it's not big. It's you know, Mustangs have always had that kind of history with aerospace, but why 747? Well, there's actually a couple cool reasons. So at the time, the CEO for Ford just came from Boeing. So they thought it'd be kind of like a little tip of the hat to him to kind of say, hey, you know, we're going to call it the 747. They also said, you know, based on the fact that the car is a very aerodynamic car, and that was kind of like one of the most important features of it is how well it was going to handle. So they thought that was important. But the other cool thing that I thought that was really interesting was the Boss 302 and the Boeing 747 both debuted in 1969. How cool is that? So that's actually the real legitimate code name for the Boss 302. While they were developing the car, any emails, any communication, any talking they did in the office, they always referred to the 2012, 2013 Boss 302 as the 747. So I thought that was a cool one as well. So number 3 is kind of an interesting one. I had to dig a little bit on this one to kind of find this info out, but I still thought it interesting. So when they developed the Coyote engine, they had a mule car, a car that they were using to demo. It was a 2010 body, and they called it White Lightning. And that's what they actually used to do a lot of the testing for the car. So when the Boss 302 team decided that they were actually going to do their own mule car, they actually took over the White Lightning, and they actually used a second car, and the second car had a really weird name. So the other car was called 564W593. The most random name. Well, what that car actually had was the first prototype Coyote engine. So they ripped that engine out and they put the prototype Boss 302 engine in that car, and they used White Lightning to still use the old 3-valve motor, but they put all the Boss 302 suspension on it. So they could actually test the two independent of each other to make sure that they were really critiquing the specifics on the car. The suspension team drove White Lightning, and the engine team drove the red car. And so I thought that was really cool that they decided to kind of break it up over two cars and actually test everything independently. And I think it turned out really well. So I thought that was a cool one as well. All right, so number 4. Now number 4 relates to the 2013, which is what I drive, so I thought this was kind of an interesting one. Initially when they debuted the cars, they had the two different types of stripes, just like they had in 69 and 70. So they decided that for the first car that they were going to actually prototype the stickers, it was going to be this new green color that they were going to launch for 2013. So it was actually a 2012 with the 2013 graphics on it, so the hockey sticks rather than the C stripe, and it was in Gotta Have It Green. So they actually decided when they did the first production car for 2013, it was going to be a Gotta Have It Green car. So the first 2013 was that color. Interestingly enough, when they decided to do the Laguna Secas for 2013, they only came in two colors, and that was the black with the gray stripes, and then the yellow, the school bus yellow. Now, what makes the Laguna Seca different, many reasons, suspension and everything else, the rear seat delete that I used to have in this car, but more importantly, they removed two of the stripes off of the hood that taper over to the fender ones where they say Boss 302. So that's one way when you're quickly looking at the car from the outside that you can actually tell the difference. For a lot of guys who aren't as into these cars as we are, but if you're just quickly spotting one, if you don't see those side stripes over the hood, it's actually a Laguna Seca. But more importantly, the first one was that Gotta Have It Green color. I kind of wish I got that color. It was a hard one to find, but I still love this car. I treat it like a kid. You just kind of get what you get and you enjoy it and appreciate it. So yeah, but that Gotta Have It Green color is pretty cool. All right, number 5, the last one. Now, I did save this one for the last one, whether it's number 1, number 5, you know, they're all really cool facts, but I had to save this one when I saw this. You know, I'm a Canadian, so I thought this was kind of cool. The first Boss 302R race cars were built in Canada. They're actually built by a company back east. They're called Multimatic Motorsports, and they have actually had a long-standing relationship with Ford building their race cars. So they actually got the first prototype Boss 302 engines to actually test, and they wanted to test them on the racetrack. So I thought that was really cool that the car was made in Canada, and they had that long-standing relationship with this company that continues to build Ford Racing race cars to this very day. So I thought that was a cool one. I knew that Watson Engineering has always done a lot of cool stuff with the Cobra Jets, but it was kind of cool to find out that it was a Canadian company that actually built the race cars. So that was a really cool one. Being Canadian, my Boss 302 is in Canada, so I had to leave it off on that note, guys. All right, man, that's everything for today, guys. Hopefully this weather gets a little bit nicer. I'm definitely feeling better since the last video. And if this is one of your first videos watching with me, please subscribe, please like this video. And if I missed out any other cool facts that you think that most people don't know about the Boss 302, leave them in the description below. All right, guys, see you next time.